good day, good afternoon, good night. How you doing? This is MCM and you're listening to You're Probably Right. Today we are going to have a serious conversation. Well, maybe not a serious conversation, but there's going to be a serious talk happening here. Now, of course, I'm only doing the talking, but just stay tuned. Hey, what's up, y'all? You are listening to You're Probably Right podcast, and you are listening to also your host, MCM. Now, check this out. I've had some interesting times of late, and it's like, one thing I can tell you it's difficult. Oh man, this thing's like clipping or whatever. It's difficult not to include your life. It's kind of like a stand-up comedian where he basically or she basically recapitulates or regurgitates some of the funny things that happen in their lives, and not necessarily funny things that happen in their life, but just things, and they make it funny. Well, like that, some of us podcasters, when we get up on here, it's like we just want to talk about our lives, but it's like let me start off by saying that welcome to You're Probably Right podcast, and I am your host, MCM, and I will say that this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. If any people are referenced in this podcast, the names will surely be changed. And hopefully none of the characters that you glean will be anybody even close to being real in reality. How's that? Weird, right? Okay, so check it out. So I wanted to talk about a few things, but the main topic for today is toxic people. Now, I could go right for the... Man, sorry, I'm drinking Diet Pepsi. I've been drinking all these diet drinks right now. I'm trying to lose weight, but I still want to have a taste of the fizz. So here I am drinking Diet Pepsi, only because they didn't have Coke Zero. Coke Zero is way better, by the way. Just thought I'd put that out there, and they're not, what do you call it, sponsoring me yet. So shout out to Coke. And Pepsi, for that matter, because Pepsi could be better as well. No, I'm just messing with you. Okay, we're going to get right into it. Let's see. Dealing with difficult people. Now, some people may just call them difficult. Some people may call them toxic. And I'm just going to throw in my 2 cents here and there. But before I get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about toxic workplaces. So we're going to talk about toxic people, but we're also going to talk about toxic workplaces. Okay? So just chill out for a second. I could pause this thing, but I mean, you're listening to some beats, right? Just chilling in the background there. I found this weird way of transcribing I could put this through my actual provider, but I'm kind of doing it until I have like more than 40,000 people listening to me. And not to say that the production level needs to be less, but until I have a substantial amount of listeners, I think, because it's just you and me, and I'm here speaking into your ear, and we're friends, right? And you've listened to, shout out to my first time and my last time listeners and my regular listeners, of course. Thank you from all across the world. Man, I don't know where I'd be if I was just worried about the people in Ontario, Canada listening to me. But I'm cool. Like I'm all over. I'm in Africa. I'm in South America, Central America. I'm in Europe. I'm all over. And that's really cool. But I wanted to wait. No, it's good. I wanted to talk about something, but toxic workplaces. Let's start off with that. People keep talking about this anti-black racism mandate or mandate initiative in general. And we keep talking about what we can do for children and what we can do for the youth, and the children are the future, and we want them to grow up in a world where they're free to be themselves, and we want choice for the children, not only the parents. And speaking as if the parents have had all this choice, speaking as a parent, it really, really annoys me, because what people don't realize is that in supporting some of these things, you're overstepping the parents. You never considered the parents. And when I'm talking about the parents, now, obviously parents who have maybe one really good income or two fairly good income homes with a babysitter or a nanny or a grandparent watching the kids while you go to work, and they do a little fundraising. Maybe they're on the board for the school and all that stuff. Maybe those people are represented in schools, and their ideas and their ideologies are pushed through along with the mandates that the board and the government sees fit. But who I'm thinking of are the people who are schlepping along, working their tails off, maybe at two jobs, sometimes a one-parent home, and they're not financially stable and barely have time to even uncross their I's and dot their T's when they get home. Those people, the people that meet their kids at home 2 hours after their kids have already been home, or the ones that say hi and bye and go off to their second job, or those ones that are just so uneducated that they have no clue what it means when you're putting their child in a special class, or when the child is being pushed through with a 54 onto the next grade, realizing that the child probably knows less than half of the information from the previous grade, but they push them along. Those people, and those people that it happened to, those people, I think about these initiatives that I'm sorry I keep saying the word initiative, but it's like there is a push to this stuff. Like, let's find out what the children want. Let's give the children what they need. But the parents don't necessarily know. Well, yeah, the parents don't necessarily know because you haven't necessarily taught them properly. You haven't brought them up in your system properly. And now you want to bypass them and ask little Johnny or little Susie what they think they want to be, who they think they are, what they think they are. And it goes on and on and on from there. And you're like overstepping your boundaries, and you're overstepping steps, and it's just so annoying. I mean, I'm talking about people who have been working one job at one company for over 15 years, and the positions that are available to them even after upgrading are entry-level positions. How is anybody supposed to live like that? I mean, it's just, you don't want to talk about ageism, but it's like reverse ageism. It's like, screw the older people, screw the people who have all the experience and all the knowledge and all the know-how, and let's just give someone who has freshly come out of university or freshly come out of college, or someone who hasn't done either of those things, the exact same paycheck as the person who has all this built up knowledge and understanding and wisdom, and who has attempted and tried and been successful in upgrading their scholastic or their higher education in one way or another. People keep saying that they value experience. They value lived experience. They value employees that have been around and been doing the job correctly and properly and exceeding expectations or going over and above for their clients or whoever. But yet you're not showing it. They're not showing it in monetarily, in money. The end of the day, you can talk about all these things that you want to do. Unless you put your money where your mouth is, you're not saying anything. Money talks. And I'm tired of everybody pretending. Well, not everybody, you know what I mean. I'm tired of people pretending that it's not money that's driving all of these things. You have people pushing through life making next to nothing. Because when the rent takes it, when cost of living takes it, they have nothing. And you know what they're counting on? That itty bitty little retirement that may not even be there for kids born in the late 60s, 70s, once they finally retire and reach 65. I just have this small feeling, this pinch, that when people born, let's say 1967 and after, they're gonna find a way to recoup that money, not only with inflation, but other ways as well. And it's horrible. And I mean, I speak to it because I'm going through it myself. So I know what it's like. I know what it's like when people keep talking about all these things that they want to change for black people. You know, they talk about slavery, the transatlantic slave trade. They talk about, you know, people going from Africa to the whole continent of Africa, by the way, not just a little piece, not just the Ivory Coast, Ghana, and just West Africa, not just a little pieces, all over. They grab people from, you know, the French took some, the Boers, the Netherlands, I guess, I can't remember what it is. They took some, the Americans took some, England or Great Britain took some. They were spread out. And these people's backgrounds, tribal lifestyles and cultures, religions were totally different. These weren't just black people they took from Africa. They took various types of black people from Africa, and they moved them all about, moved them all around. You know, they talk about that and they say, okay, that's the one bad atrocity that happened to black people. What about what they did in Namibia? They did what they did in Germany to the Jews before they did it in Namibia first, before they did it in Germany. And these were the actual Germans. And now they don't like the wording on it. They don't want to hear about reparations. They want to hear about genocide. They just want to hear about correcting mistakes and faults and all those kinds of wordings, because they don't want to end up paying back all the other countries that they screwed over as well. And I mean, the powers that be, they're not trying to help the average Joe Blow. And I don't know why we fool ourselves into thinking that they really are. Everybody, well, these things cannot be fixed by money. You're right. I can't get my name back. I can't get my culture back. There's so many things I can't get back. So we're not stupid or ignorant thinking that things can be fixed by money. But some things can be helped with money. And I figure if I have been hurt and say, you can't fix exactly what you hurt. You can't fix the trauma. You can't fix the pain. You can fix some things. And I'm saying you can start with, if the person you wronged is saying, okay, well, I would like a little restitution financially. Why shouldn't you have to help out that way? Well, it's just not going to happen, because those who have don't want to give to the have-nots. And that's just straight up. And we can fight and we can say that this culture is better than that culture. To tell you the truth, and I'm just being straight up and I'm just talking off the cuff. Remember, this is all for entertainment purposes only. I don't know nothing. And I ain't professing to be that I'm a professor or any other kind of, doctor or philosopher in any way. I'm just a dude talking to you, right? Just me and you. We're here sitting here and I'm just kind of laying into your ear a little bit. And, there's so many things that are not going to be changed. The reality is, people who these atrocities have been done to their ancestors, their parents, even some to themselves, you have to forgive. And you might think, well, buddy, it didn't sound like you were talking about forgiveness. Well, I think that's always a starting point, forgiveness. Because if you can't forgive others, God's not going to forgive you. That's what the scriptures say. But at the same time, if you can't forgive, you're going to be holding on to this bitterness that will destroy your life. But at the same time, when these things are being played out right in front of you and you're just asking for a little help here and there, like how about offer some type of way for those who were held back with this, they say systemic racism, these microaggressions, those people living in different types of lifestyles, whatever it is, that have been tortured, hurt, or held back. Maybe just offer some help for them to pull themselves up a little bit. Give the opportunity. Don't tax them more off the peanuts that they're getting in the first place. And what really bugs me is I've talked about it before. At the bottom of these job descriptions for open jobs at companies, saying that they support BIPOC people, Black, Indigenous, people of color, in applying for these positions. They give a whole bunch of jibber jabber and go at length about the whole thing, but basically it just seems and feels like they're just trying to do the quota thing, and I can tell you, nobody honestly wants to be part of anybody's quota. Now, obviously some of us are going to benefit, and obviously some of us aren't going to be experienced or knowledgeable enough to do certain jobs that we get just because of this quota mentality, which I really don't want a quota job. I really don't know. I know where my skills are, and I would like it if my skills can be valued for what they are, and I don't have to push myself into a place where I don't know anything and just get along for getting along's sake. It's not comfortable. It's not desirable at all. And I don't know, maybe there are some people who just want that money. Listen, if somebody throws an extra 10 or 20,000 at you, it's still not going to fix your life. Don't fool yourself. And poor and stupid and wasting money is going to be the same as if you were a little bit more wealthy and stupid. You're going to waste that money the same way. Maybe instead of buying a tricked out Honda Civic, you're going to buy a tricked out Mercedes Benz. Or maybe instead of buying 4 pairs of jeans from Old Navy, you're going to buy 4 pairs of jeans from Balmain or from, I don't know, from wherever. So, I mean, that's my little rant about workplaces, and it's just so many things. There's just so many things that just stop people from getting ahead. And, people think they can just slide in and fix it with the children. Fix the parents. Why are the parents forgotten about? The parents used to be children as well. Nowadays, you could be working one of these crusty, low-paying jobs, and your kid can just jump out of high school and do the exact same job or even better sometimes because they're more technologically savvy. Why are they more technologically savvy? Because they grew up in the age of computers and YouTube and Google. And their parents are stuck doing manual labor where they don't even have time to pull open a computer, time to do an online initiative or education program or whatever it is. So therefore, because they don't have time, they're being held back. It's the whole system, And I'm not saying that it has to be totally broken down and dismantled. But all I'm saying is is it possible to maybe bolster, help out the people who got screwed over in past? So those middle-aged people who are barely making it, who are having a hard time even living on their own. Some of them have crawled back to their parents' homes. Some of them have depended on little shifty moves here and there to afford a house of their own or a condo of their own, or maybe they're in a rent geared to your income, and that means basically they're not going to get forward, or those who have to live separate from their spouse so that they can claim two different incomes so that they can afford a proper place, or the different sad scams that people have to pull off just so they can eke out a halfway normal, lower than average paycheck in existence. I wish somebody cared about that. I wish somebody really did care about the poor people and not just offer everyone the minimum wage and jack it up from 9 to 14 to 15. Now every job that's not a half decent paying job nowadays is $15 an hour. And that's the reason why there's so many jobs available. People are just shifting from this one to this one. Oh, you're pissing me off over here? Fine, I'm gonna go over to McDonald's and make $15 an hour. Oh, Winners isn't working for you? Okay, I'm gonna go over here and sweep floors for $15 an hour. Like, it's just all the same. There's no levels to this. There's either poor, or you made it for a little bit of time, because most of the jobs that they pay half decent don't let you stay in those jobs for too long as well. And that's the other trick that they pull. A lot of people think they have the quote unquote come up, but what they don't realize is that come up's going to be a slap down in the near future. But get comfortable. Go get that mortgage. Go get that car payment. Hope you got a safety net. And that's about all I can say. Remember, everything expressed on this is just entertainment. I'm really not serious with anything that I've said. Okay, now we're gonna go on to the more fun, happy stuff. Dealing with difficult people. Now, I have no idea why. I think there's too many things going on in the background of my computer. Let me see if I can close a couple things. What else we got? Okay. That sounds better. I still want some beats. Yeah. Okay. So, toxic people. 12 things they do and how to deal with them. Now, I really don't know if these people have any clue on how to deal with them. I was reading through some of this yesterday, and I thought, I could talk about this on my podcast. Not that I was looking about this for myself or anything. Okay, so this is coming from heysigmund.com. Okay, so if you want to check us out for yourself, check it out. It's heysigmund.com, like Sigmund Freud. Yeah, heysigmund.com / toxic, and then I guess dash people / comment page 15, whatever. Anyhow, let's get to it. Now, I'm just going to read the article straight up, and then you know me, I'll just jump in here and there. It says, we have all had toxic people dust us with their poison. Dust, eh? Nice. Sometimes it's more like a drenching. Difficult people are drawn to the reasonable ones or the agreeable ones, right? So you have difficult people or disagreeable people, and they are drawn. I don't even know why I'm doing that already. Sorry. Let me just read it as it is. It says, difficult people are drawn to reasonable ones, and all of us have likely had or have at least one person in our lives who have us bending around ourselves like barbed wire in endless attempts to please them, only to never really get there. Their damage lies in their subtlety and the way they can engender that classic response. It's not them, it's me. They can have you questioning your overreactiveness, your oversensitivity, your tendency to misinterpret. If you're the one who's continually hurt, or the one who is constantly adjusting your own behaviors to avoid being hurt or to avoid being in conflict, I add that of course, then chances are that is not you, and it is very much them. Being able to spot their harmful behavior is the first step to minimizing their impact. You might not be able to change what they do, but you can change what you do with it. And any idea that toxic somebody is in your life might have that they, what the heck? Sorry. I'm sorry. And any idea that toxic somebody in your life might have that they can get away with it. I don't even want to take that, man. Didn't feel right. There are plenty of things toxic people do to manipulate people and situations to their advantage. Here are 12 of them. 12 of them. Knowing them will help you to avoid falling under the influence. Okay, so I'm going to go through these as usual, 1 to 12. Now, I will have to chime in here and there if I don't agree, because that's just what I do. And you know that if you've been in my podcast ears before. All right. Number 1, they'll keep you guessing about which version of them you're getting. They'll be completely lovely one day, and then the next you'll be wondering what you've done to upset them. There often isn't anything obvious that will explain the change of attitude. You just know something isn't right. They might be prickly, sad, cold, or cranky, and when you ask if there is something wrong, the answer will likely be nothing. But they'll give you just enough bad vibes to let you know that there's something. That's just enough. Might be a heavy sigh, or a raised eyebrow, or a cold shoulder. When this happens, you might find yourself making excuses for them in your mind, or doing something or everything you can to make them happy. See why it works for them. Stop trying to please them. Toxic people figured out a long time ago that decent people will go to extraordinary lengths to keep the people they care about happy. If your attempts to please aren't working or aren't lasting very long, maybe it's time to stop. Walk away and come back when the mood has shifted. You are not responsible for anybody else's feelings, they say. If you have done something unknowingly to hurt somebody, ask, talk about it, and if need be, apologize. At any rate, you shouldn't have to guess. Well, and that's the thing, right? Generally, you do have to guess. And you can't always, this is me, of course, now. You can't always just walk off. Because many of us who have gone through this know that if you do walk off, when you come back, if you're allowed to come back in many cases, if you're living with the person, there's something sitting there, you know it's there, and many of you who have tried to just take some space and take off somewhere, or go hang out with somebody else for a while, or take off a few hours, come back to a crazy argument, or come back with the locks changed, or your clothes out the window, or an invitation to sleep on the couch, or a cold shoulder, a literal cold shoulder, if you know what I mean. So it's not just, if you're going to be in a relationship with the person, I wouldn't always suggest just taking space for an extended period of time. Maybe stay close just in case the person is willing or would like to fix things between you and them. Although, we're talking about toxic people, so in many cases they don't. And they want you to feel angst. They want you to feel all, full of anxiety, not knowing what you did this time. It's really not a good feeling. They'll manipulate. Number 2. If you feel as though you're the one contributing to the relationship, you're probably right. Hey, they used my line. Toxic people have a way of sending out the vibe that you owe them something. They also have a way of taking from you or do something that hurts you, then maintaining they were doing it all along, all for you. This is particularly common in workplaces or relationships where the balance of power is out. I've left that 6 months worth of filing for you. I thought you'd appreciate the experience and the opportunity to learn your way around the filing cabinet. Or, I'm having a dinner party. Why don't you bring dinner for 10? It'll give you a chance to show off those kitchen skills. Okay? You follow that, of course. Yeah, they will manipulate 100%. And I don't know, I guess that's how this person looks at it, but some people just subtly fight with you. You know, passive aggressive nonsense that they will bring to your life to make it difficult for you just to be you. You don't owe anybody anything. Of course, it says, if it doesn't feel like favor, it's not. Well, I wouldn't say you don't owe anybody anything. I know the Bible says, owe no man nothing but love. So you owe everybody love. Not to be their slave, not to have no backbone, not to have a spine, but you owe everyone love. Treat everybody as if you knew God was watching. The Lord Jesus is watching you, because he is. But at the same time, you don't have to be beaten just because somebody wants to abuse you. You're not, in these cases, you're not like suffering for the cross. You're just put on a cross by people who are wicked. And if you can take yourself out of their hand, especially if they have you financially over a barrel, it can be more difficult in other times. Usually it's the person, if it's a relationship, usually the person who gets put in these places are usually the person that has less in most cases. You'd think that, women can do it to guys no matter what, but no, because guys who are financially stable, guys who know where they're coming from, in general, would not stand for it in most cases because they don't have to. 3, they won't own their feelings. Rather than owning their own feelings, they'll act as though feelings are yours. It's called projection, as in projecting their feelings and thoughts onto you. For example, someone who is angry but won't take responsibility for it might accuse you of being angry with them. It might be as subtle as, "Are you okay with me?" Or a bit more pointed, "Why are you angry at me?" Or, "You've been in a bad mood all day." You'll find yourself justifying and defending, and often this will go around in circles and circles and circles and circles. And by the end of it, you won't even know what you're arguing about. And that's just me adding that in, by the way. You thought they really wrote circles 8 times? Because it's not about you. Be really clear on what's yours and what's theirs. If you feel as though you are defending yourself too many times against accusations or questions that don't fit, you might be being projected onto. You don't have to explain, justify, or defend yourself or deal with a misfired accusation. Remember that. And that's what I think I have forgotten most times. And it's not that live your truth, know your truth, and all that nonsense. Truth is truth, and sometimes we get stuck into saying that about, I know I'm living my own truth, or I'm speaking my own truth. No, you can speak what has happened, or the reality of what has transpired in your life, or what has happened to you. That is not necessarily truth. It is just what happened. That's the result of this, result of that. Just because somebody called you an idiot doesn't mean you're an idiot, right? Okay, so that's not truth. It's just what you were called. Hopefully you get that analogy. 4, they'll make you prove yourself to them. Big one. They'll regularly put you in a position where you have to choose between them and something else, and you'll always feel obligated to choose them. Toxic people will wait until you have a commitment, then they'll unfold the drama. If you really cared about me, you'd skip your exercise class and spend time with me. The problem with this is that enough will never be enough. Few things are fatal unless it's life or death. Chances are it can wait. And I can honestly say that I did this. And when I'm speaking about this, I'm not speaking about any specific person, but I can honestly say that sometimes, even within myself, I've stopped doing something that I needed to do for me and ended up losing anyways, but I tried to appease the other person. And then you know what happens to the person who does this, who tries to appease the person, the God in their life, or whatever you want to call it? You end up turning around years later saying, why didn't I go to that basketball tryout? Why didn't I take that high-paying job just a little further out? Why didn't I keep going to the gym? Now I'm 80 pounds heavier than I was at the time when I was actually committed. And I did that because this person wasn't 100% okay with me at the gym, or whatever the case is. And even if you ever brought it up in a conversation, it'd be like, don't blame me. Nobody, you could have pushed away the fork from your own mouth, but you were the one putting it in your mouth. You know what I mean? No, stuff like that. When you know that every time you came back, you were looked at sideways, and maybe you were playing hockey or basketball on the weekend with your boys or girls or whatever it is, and the person started looking at you sideways, and you said, okay, let me just cut that out because this is the most important relationship in my life, and yada yada yada. And then you got horribly out of shape, and now you're stuck with remnants, except it's only you and they're gone about their business. I know there's many stories like that. Could have got that better job, could have stayed fit, could have did that other business opportunity, could have learned that new skill, could have taken that new course, but no, you stopped yourself for the other person, and now the other person has moved on without you. Now where are you? And that's real. And it's sad. And I really feel for anybody who's gone through this. Because what you end up finding is that you've lost time. One of our most valuable commodities in this life is time. And to know that you've made progress in something that you dedicated yourself to, only to fall back, lose those steps forward, and now you have to think about getting back to where you started, not getting back to where you ended at time, but actually getting back to where you started, because maybe you fell off even farther. And it's sad. And the funny thing is, about the only person who's going to care is you. Don't worry. The person who you think you did all this for is not going to care, especially if they're not around. They've moved on to bigger and better things. They have made sure that their financial or their situation is secure, and as such has moved on because they don't need you. And I'm telling you right now, if you're in the middle of it, you're being dumb. You're being dumb to think that you have to set aside the things that you need for yourself, the things that you want for yourself, in line with the Word of God. I'm talking to you, Christians. But you don't have to just throw away yourself. You are still someone. You are still a person in Christ. You're still a child of God. You still matter. Don't think that you have to push everything across, because what happens is it never works, especially when you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're doing it just to appease someone, it's not going to work. If you're doing it because, you need to dedicate yourself more because you've maybe selfishly pulled yourself out of the relationship, and, you need to maybe be, to alter your behaviors. But if it's not sinful and it is positive and it is godly and you're not doing anything wrong, don't think you have to stop things out of guilt. Guilt will kill you. 6, especially misplaced guilt. They'll be there in a crisis, but they'll never ever share your joy. Yep. Now, hold on, let me just plug this. I don't know if I can plug this in while I'm here. Hold on a second. No, that wasn't so bad. Let's see if I can get some juice. You hear that? Getting some juice. All right, here we go. They'll be there in crisis, but they'll never ever share your joy. And sometimes you wonder why. They'll be there when things are going rough. Let me just read what they say. They say they'll find reasons your good news isn't great news. The classics about promotion. The money isn't that great for the amount of work you'll be doing. About a holiday at the beach. Well, it's going to be very hot. Are you sure you want to go? About being made queen of the universe. Well, the universe isn't that big, and I'm pretty sure you won't get tea breaks. Get the idea? Don't let them dampen you or shrink you down to the size that they want you to be, or their size. You don't need their approval anyway, or anyone else for that matter. Now, again, this person is obviously not a Christian, so a lot of their ideologies and ideas are a little bit whatever, but some of it's truthful. But I know some of the worst things that you can ever read or be taught will be like 80% true, and that 20% will really be a doozy and will be a killer. So you got to be careful. So sometimes I don't like reading their last lines, because they try to hammer home that nobody else matters, you don't owe anybody anything, and who cares what anybody thinks. And I don't jive with those things really. I don't even know why I'm reading them, but I'm just reading this person's list here. But I won't say never. They may not, I would say in reality, just from my experience, they probably won't be as happy for you when something happens for you as happy as you would think they would be. And they generally, a lot of these people are there when you go through a rough time, and maybe even, you may not be able to feel it, but they might even be more tentative than you would expect them to be or even want them to be. And they'll be just oddly supportive when things are really crappy for you. 7, they'll leave a conversation unfinished and then they'll go offline. I guess this is an online thing. They won't pick up their phone, they won't answer their text or email, and in between rounds of their voice message, you might find yourself playing the conversation argument over and over in your head, guessing about the status of your relationship, wondering what you've done to upset them this time, or whether they're dead, alive, or just ignoring you, which can sometimes all feel the same. People who care about you won't let you go on feeling rubbish without attempting to sort it out. And that's what you really got to remember, people. That doesn't mean you'll sort it out, of course, but at least they'll try. Take it as a sign of their investment in the relationship if they leave you out there for lengthy sessions. So yeah, this one I would jive with mostly because if somebody cares, they don't want to see you just out there in these streets discombobulated, upset, and just all out of sorts, disheveled. They want you to feel better. They want you to be able to operate properly. They're not going to call you on your job just to stress you out, piss you off on purpose, knowing that you can't function. People who love people don't do that. And once, twice, 3 times, it happened, maybe they just, they want care, they want love. But you know what? Most of these people, when it's happened more than once or twice, it's a pattern. Are you listening? It's a pattern. It's something that they're doing actually on purpose. When they know that you have an agreeable, soft heart in certain ways, because you could be cold or you could have issues in other parts of your characteristics or your personality or whatever it is, but they know where you're soft, and that's where they'll stick you. So have you ever had the person who will ignore you all night, ignore you all morning, or maybe even avoid you in the morning just in case you try to talk to them, and then they let you get halfway to work or all the way to work, and then they'll lay it on you on a 4-paragraph text, one that they know you're going to pay attention to and one that they know will disrupt you from doing your job. And why would people do this more than once or twice, especially when you brought it to their attention? Because that's what they want to do. And just being real with you, there's no love in that. There's no love in it at all. It's not just, okay, well, the person's hurt, so their obvious reaction is to hurt you back. That's not love. Love isn't, I got hurt, so therefore I must hurt you. That's not love. And even as I say it, I am like accepting that for myself, and it's difficult. That's not the behavior of love. Would you do it to them? Would you? I mean, if you're listening to this and you're the product of a twisted, toxic relationship or situations between you and a spouse or whatever it is, would you ever think of literally getting back and hurting the person because they hurt you? The answer in most cases, if you're listening to this and you've been affected by this, is probably no. The people that would say yes are people who are probably trying to plan something to do to somebody, and I reject that if that's what you're trying to do. I hope you're not using this this podcast to do negative things to people, evil things to people. But think about that, what I just said. They'll use non-toxic words with a toxic tone. The message might be innocent enough, but the tone conveys so much more. Something like, "What did you do today?" Or, better yet, "What did you do today?" Can mean different things depending on the way it's said. "What'd you do today?" Right? It could mean anything from, "So, I bet you did nothing as usual," to, "I'm sure your day was better than mine. Mine was awful, just awful, and you didn't even notice enough to ask." When you question the tone, they'll come back with, "All I said was, 'What did you do today?' which is true, kind of, not really. And those are harsh. You know, when somebody says, you know, like, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. Or you were supposed to take the garbage out maybe and you didn't. And you were supposed to catch a hint from what did you do today? I'm really hungry. And maybe you didn't cook food and you should have cooked food. I don't know. It was just your turn, or you took a sick day off, so you could have at least cooked dinner. Let's see. And I got some stuff to say at the end of this, which is going to be different than this person's list. For sure, I think. Still debating whether or not I should say anything. They'll bring irrelevant detail into a conversation. When you're trying to resolve something important to you, toxic people will bring in irrelevant details from 5 arguments or 2 years ago. The problem with this is that before you know it, you're arguing about something you did 6 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, still defending yourself. And I am adding to this, but you're still defending yourself for something that you probably already apologized for. Rather than dealing with the issue at hand, somehow it just always seems to end about what you've done to them. And then when you say, why are you talking about things in the past? They're saying their answer, and you can never defend this because your behaviors have not changed. It's indefensible, really, because if it's just you and them arguing, I mean, you can list the ways that you've changed if you want, but that's not the reason for this. This is just not to get to the point of the matter at hand and to spin you around and around and around and around till you don't even bother trying to stick to whatever the point was in the discussion in the first place. They'll make it about the way you're talking rather than what you're talking about. And I mean, I could go off. Let me just read theirs, but I have my own 2 cents. I mean, I probably should just be using their statements than going on about mine, but we'll just read. It says, you might be trying to resolve an issue or get clarification, and before you know it, the conversation / argument has moved away from the issue that was important to you and onto the manner in which you talked about it. Right. So how? Whether there is an issue with your manner or not, you'll find yourself defending your tone, your gestures, your choice of words, or the way your belly moves when you breathe. It doesn't even need to make sense. Meanwhile, your initial need is well gone on the pile of unfinished conversations that seem to grow bigger by the day. So yeah, they will definitely make it about the way you're talking rather than what you're talking about. And a lot of time the conversation will end. They'll say something like, okay, well, if you're going to talk to me that way, I'm not going to talk to you. And it's like, okay, so now because I was upset about something that happened and because I expressed it in an unseemly manner, therefore the conversation's over, and now we get to sit around and dwell in a cloud of unforgiveness, resentment, hurt, pain, and the list goes on. And somehow this makes sense to some people. They exaggerate. You never. It's hard to defend yourself against this form of manipulation. You always say that. You never. Toxic people have a way of drawing on the one time you didn't or the one time you did as evidence of your shortcomings. Don't buy into the argument. You won't win and you don't need to. And that's true. 100% true. Because it's been done. People with the absolutes, you've never done. And it's like, you can, like, as soon as somebody says that, what happens usually, if you have time there, is you go back to time that you did, or you realize that you've done something, but you know that you don't always do it. And it's horrible, because these people are being manipulative. They may have other stuff they may have other stuff going on, or even some mental issues of their own. So, the best thing I can tell you, and I mean, if you're here still listening, then you've probably been through this. The best thing I can tell you is just to forgive. It's really difficult, because oftentimes when you've had these types of arguments, discussions, when the subject changes or whatever, you're close to like imploding, not even exploding. It's like from the inside, you're just all ripped up. You're ripped to shreds. Nothing is solved. You're hurt beyond belief. You're hurt because you think you've hurt them also, and you're just torn up. You're dismembered within yourself, and you don't even see where you can mend the bridges, the broken parts, to fix the pain, the hurts, and all that stuff that you're not sure that you've caused or have caused. And you know that no one is closer to fixing all the hurt and the pain inside of you. It's a horrible feeling. And I'm not going to go as far to say that people do it on purpose, but when there is a history of it, when it always is, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, and then this. And when it goes in that pattern, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times or more for this year, that year, next year, the year after that, and it always seems to, like, it just continually seems to go that way, then I can tell you right now, there is a purposeful way in which you're being treated, and a purposeful way in dealing with things. And it's one thing if the people circle back every second time or every third time and try to honestly fix things. Then you have a person there that maybe is conflicted, maybe dealing with some mental issues. But when you know that you go through these things and the person never, ever circles back and tries to fix them between you and them, it's not love. And it's really hard to say, and I could understand somebody maybe even shedding a tear when I say this, because you really, really love that person, but they're not showing you love. They don't show that you have worth to them. They're not showing that they care about your feelings. They're just stuck. They're stuck on their own thing. Or worse is when you have something that amazing that happens to you, or you've had an epiphany, or you've come to some realization about something, or you've had a eureka moment, and for whatever reason you bring it to them because you're the person you bring those kind of things to, and they totally ignore you and say, yeah, but did you wash the dishes yet? They're letting you know how much they value you, and there's no value there. And it's sad, especially if you've gone years and years and years, maybe over 20, 30, 40 years, thinking that somebody really cares about you. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a parent, and these things are happening and you realize it. You're demanded or expected to do certain things for them, but then on the other end, the back end, they could care less about your happiness. And yeah, they'll throw you a bone every once in a while. They'll get this and get that because, they got to get their stuff. And then maybe they'll ask you if you want something on the back end just to make you feel like you're included, just to kind of pay like a little bit of pittance or whatever it is. Just so you can't say that they owe you anything in most cases. Number 12, they are judgmental. We all get it wrong sometimes, but toxic people will make sure you know it. They'll judge you and take a swipe at your self-esteem, suggesting that you're less than because you made a mistake. We're all allowed to get it wrong now and then. But unless we've done something that affects them, nobody has the right to stand in judgment. Knowing that the favorite go-to for toxic people will sharpen your radar, make the manipulations easier to spot and easier to name. More importantly, if you know the characteristics, the signs of a toxic person, you'll have a better chance at catching yourself before you tie yourself in double knots trying to please them. Some people can't be pleased and some people won't be. Good for you. I was saying won't be pleased, but yeah, it won't be good for you. And many times that will have nothing to do with you. You can always say no to unnecessary crazy. Be confident and own your own faults, your quirks, the things that make you shine. You don't need anyone's approval to be. But remember, if someone is working hard to manipulate, it's probably because they need your approval. You don't always have to give it up, but if you do, don't let that cost be too high. And yeah, it's pretty much there. I don't know if you don't need anyone else's approval for anything. I don't believe anyone is an island, so you may need their approval. You are your brother's keeper, but yeah, you have to avoid paying that extra cost that's not valued at whatever is happening or whatever the issue is. When somebody wants to give you a little extra torture just to put you in your place, that's not right. You know, I can honestly tell you, and maybe this would be number lucky 13, but I've gone through situations where, maybe I've been wrong in the past about certain things, or even at present, but where one thing you can find yourself being targeted and put down for one small thing or something that they knew anyways. They find something that you did, and this is generally how it works. I don't know how conscious it is for the person, but it seemingly is conscious at some level. But you'll do something wrong. They won't use their emotion to say, what the heck, you did this wrong. No. Instead, what many of these people do is they put it in their back pocket and they save it for a rainy day. And then on a day where maybe you did this for them, you gave them that, you made sure this was straight and that was straight, and then they'll turn around and say, you know what? They won't say one thing about what you gave them, what you did for them, how you handled your business and made things straight. They will pick the one nebulous thing and make that as big as they can. And if that's not good enough, they'll reach into their back pocket and pull out that offense that you did and add that to the bill to make sure that it adds up enough for them to have the excuse to give you the business. And I've been through that many times, and I can honestly tell you that it's sad when people do that. So what can my advice be? Because, I've done over 70 of these things now. Supposedly this is episode 77, I think, possibly. But you have to be careful. And this is just me without the emotions of earlier talking. This is just a friend talking to a friend. You can't let people try to destroy you. You can't let people try to tear you down to nothing. I mean, you have value, right? You also know you're not perfect, right? And for you to allow someone just to tear you down till there's like nothing left of you for their kicks, not because their hurt is so enormous or so prevalent in their lives, even though those are the things that they might bring out in the time. I mean, the sad thing is that, well, the reality is, maybe not the sad thing is, but the reality is you will have disagreements with your significant other, your wife, your husband. But the reality is how are you going to deal with it? And if every time you're arguing with a person, they're just looking to annihilate you, that's not love. There's surely not godly love. And you have to really look over that and realize that there is value in your life. When you know that you work hard to change certain things about yourself, and if not change things about yourself, but kind of supplement your nonsense, because we all have nonsense, with some extra good behaviors in other areas. Maybe you still have some struggles, or you still have some trials, or some challenges to get through, so you try to help by doing other things. And when you realize that nothing is good enough, nothing is valued, nothing is praised, and when you realize that someone never rejoices with you, never tries, and maybe it's not never, but hardly ever tries to support you doing things that you want to do with yourself, with your life, with your career, with your physique, with your whatever it is, then you have to really question, what am I in? And I mean, if you're in a marriage, okay, first of all, I don't believe in divorce. So especially for these types of reasons, I would say, you need to pray. You need to look at yourself and say, what can I change? What is there that I can draw myself closer to the cross, closer to God's ways of doing things, his precepts, closer to the Lord's word? And you may have to suffer a little bit, even though you've suffered in a different way. But when you turn around and say, okay, it's not my way and it's not your way, but it's God's way, and try to humble yourself to the word, to the will of God, and give yourself fully into doing things the way he wants to, then you don't have to worry about other people. And yeah, they will affect you. But guess what? They won't be able to affect you in that way forever. They won't live forever, and you won't live forever. So the time is short, and time is at hand for the Lord's return. And one of my better pieces of somewhat advice to you would just remember that only what you do for Christ will last. Everything else is passing away. You're not going to be able to reach out and grasp the wind. You feel it, but you can't hold it. Sometimes you have to adapt just to let God work things out for you. And I know it's hard. I know it's difficult when, especially if you're someone who's made nobody's made bigger mistakes than I have in like a relationship wise. And it's sad if you made those relationships mistakes and you know that you tried to right your wrong. You have turned away from your sin. You've repented from your wicked ways. And then somebody will never, ever, ever let it go and bring it up with every time you didn't buy the right item at the store, you didn't clean the carpet good enough, or you didn't save enough money out of your paycheck, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. And somehow it goes back to that other thing. If I could just say a small prayer, if you're willing to listen. And it's nothing that I've prepared, so it's just off the cuff. I just feel the need to pray, and I would just say, Father God, I just thank you for your word. We thank you for your love and your care. We thank you for dying for us, Lord Jesus. We thank you for being the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords in our lives and over the whole universe and over everything. And Lord God, we realize that we are not perfect. We are never going to be perfect on this earth, but we are striving for perfection in you. We know that in all things you are able to do exceedingly above all that we can ask or even think. We know that you're able to do anything that we are unable to do, and you're willing to help your children, those who have called you Lord, those who believe in you and have faith in you, those who you've given the faith to believe in you. Lord God, I just pray that you would touch that one that is listening right now, that one that feels that they're on their last rope. I pray that you would strengthen them. I pray that you would help them to realize their faults and turn away from their wicked ways and look to you and look to your word for direction. I just praise you right now, Lord God, and I exalt you because you alone are worthy to be praised. You alone are worthy to be worshiped and magnified and glorified for what you've done, for who you are. I just thank you right now. Okay, y'all. Thanks for coming out. And again, this is You're Probably Right, and I am MCM. Take care. Till next time. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 dogs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while, understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.